Welcome to another episode of Moment to Pause, the podcast where you've got nothing to prove. We're slowing down to explore the topic of creativity, not as a talent for a chosen few, but as a way of thinking and connecting.
Whether you're in a creative rut or just curious where your next idea might come from, this one's for you.
We're kicking things off with a quote from the one and only Maya Angelou. You can't use up creativity. The more you use, the more you have. Jana, does this resonate with you?
Absolutely. Now, I only hear it and I can feel the spark that arises when the creative juices start flowing. Like right now when I started to crochet. It's on topic, right? Then what about you, Karolina?
Well, for me, I used to think creativity was for the artists, the designers, the musicians, not for spreadsheet-loving, data-driven me. But honestly, coaching has taught me creativity lies in how we think, how we solve problems, and connect ideas. The more I leaned into it, whether it was writing, building frameworks, or even honestly just planning out the week, the more ideas started to flow through. Think about it like turning on a faucet.
I love that. So, Carolina, you mentioned the framework. So, are you trying to say that we can use frameworks even for creativity?
Yes, we came up with a mini framework that we love to call the 3 Ps of everyday creativity. And I'll kick it off with the first one. The first P is for permission, and this one is huge. Creativity really begins the moment that perfectionism pauses. It's about giving yourself permission to be messy, to be curious, and to not get it right on the first try. Last month, yes, I know I'm in Wisconsin, I started taking golf lessons, and I really stink. I think I missed the ball more than half the time. However, I am not giving up because I know the only way forward is through. I'm not waiting to be perfect to enjoy it. I'm letting myself be a beginner. But I've also realized that learning any type of new skill is making me more creative. I get to stay curious. I experiment. I adjust my stances. And I'm okay with quote unquote failing. And that's all creativity is. It's showing up without any type of guarantee. That's the heart of giving yourself permission to try, to fail, and to keep going anyways.
Thanks, Carolina. I will maybe reframe the failing you just mentioned to giving yourself permission not to have any expectations. And then we cannot even fail. We simply play, and this actually introduces the second P, play. And this is the one that lights me up, as you can see right now. For me, play often looks like yarn and a crochet hook, and many other craft supplies that I do have at home. So when I'm crocheting, I'm not thinking about doing it perfectly or producing something flawless. I'm just following the colors, the patterns, the texture. Sometimes I don't even know what I'm making, like in this case, until I'm halfway through, and that's the magic. Because play is what happens when you give yourself permission to explore without a goal. It's creativity without pressure. No deadlines, no outcomes, no shoulds. Just the joy of making something for the sake of it. So for me, crochet is my reminder that creativity doesn't always start with a blank page. Sometimes it starts with following your curiosity, taking the hook and the yarn and see where it goes. So let your hands move, let your mind wander, and let your heart lead.
Beautifully put. So now we lead to our last P, which is all about presence. It's what happens when you're actually here in your body, in your breath. Check out our previous episode on breath, but I digress. And it's about not worrying about the outcome or judging the idea before it even forms. So for me, it shows up during my forest walks. I learned this great idea from Mel Robbins, and the concept is about taking 10-minute silent walks. So no music, no phone. It's just me and nature. And you'll be surprised by how loud, pun intended, your best ideas can be when the world goes quiet. That's why I always carry this tiny little notebook, because without fail, when I'm a few minutes into the silence, something clicks. An idea for a client, a podcast title, or any type of creative solution. It's like my brain was waiting for just that little breathing room to whisper through. We think creativity happens at a desk or on demand, but often it's in these presence-filled pockets where the real magic sneaks in. So if you're feeling stuck, maybe it's not about pushing harder, maybe it's about pausing deeper.
You're right. So let's bring it all together. Creativity isn't about being artistic or having the perfect idea. It's about being open. Open to exploration, to messiness, to seeing the world differently, even for a moment. And that's where the 3 P's of everyday creativity comes in. So let me wrap it up. First one was for permission. Permission to be a beginner, to try, to show up without needing to be perfect. Play is here to remind you to follow your sparks, to experiment and to enjoy the process, with no pressure to produce. And the last one was for presence. To pause, to breathe, and to notice the quiet ideas waiting to be heard when you are fully here. Creativity isn't a rare gift, it's a renewable one. And when we honor these small shifts, we invite more alignment, more clarity, and yes, more creativity into our lives.
Now that you have your 3P framework, we're going to put on our coaching hats. Jana, you've discussed this topic of creativity and play with so many people. Why do you think so many adults stop calling themselves creative?
Thank you for this question. And honestly, this makes me very sad that majority of people have some scar from their childhood, from their school days, where they were shamed by an authority figure, by something related to their creative expression. And when I heard the statistic from Brené Brown, it shook me. Because I've heard these stories over and over from various people, and I can admit today that I am one of the people that experienced it. I remember exactly the moment when I was shamed for something I drew, and from that moment on, I couldn't call myself creative. Because I wasn't able to draw nicely. That was the only reason. And regardless of how many other creative talents we possess, we often connect creativity with only one particular ability. So for example, in my case, it was drawing. And we let it, and this shameful moment, define us and unfortunately limit us in our lives. It took me a lot of creative endeavors to realize that creativity is one of the most important values and traits that I can bring to the table in so many forms. But it makes me very sad when I still hear adults not calling themselves creative. And usually it was caused by similar shaming experience in school. Even in my work, I often try to help people to bring more playfulness into their lives, because this helps with creativity. And as many of these talents are all learnable, creativity is a complex trait and it can be seen as a muscle. So Karolina, when did you realize that you can call yourself creative?
It's all about identity and reframing what creativity meant to me. Yes, I can be a data guru and still be creative. If you want to rekindle your creative spark, Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert is a classic. Or you can try The Artist Way by Julia Cameron. We talk about this in episode 4. Check it out. Her idea of morning pages is one of the simplest ways to reconnect with your inner creator. I know. We talked a lot today about permission to be messy, to the power of play, to the presence it takes to let your ideas rise. Creativity isn't something you either have or you don't. It's something to remember, to reclaim, and to practice over and over again.
And the beautiful part, the more you use it, the more it grows. So whether you're doodling, problem solving, dancing in your kitchen, writing in a notebook, crocheting while recording a podcast, or even recording a podcast or a video, you're creating. You don't need a label or a title. You just need a willingness to try.
Before we go, we want to leave you with one question to reflect on. Where in your life can you invite more creativity, not for the outcome, but for the joy of expression?
Remember, there are no expectations when it comes to play and creativity. Simply follow your curiosity, let go of any perfectionism, and see where it leads you. If you have no idea how to start, try to remember what you liked doing when you were a child, what always sparked joy for you. What were you interested in or fascinated by? There are no rules. Take it lightly and stop comparing yourself to professionals. This is something to explore simply for you, and if it still sparks the same joy, you can always get better. Thanks for pausing with us today. If this episode sparked something for you, share it with a friend or leave us a review. And if you try our 3-piece framework this week, permission, play, or presence, we'd love to hear about it.
Until next time, may you give yourself space to create, even if it's just for the fun of it.